What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken. Today, guys, I am here to review and talk about Dawn of the Dead on 4K from Scream Factory. So I have been waiting for this one all month, and it has finally arrived. So I'm excited to talk about it here today. But before we get into it, I'm going to talk about the transfer of this 4K. We're going to talk about the sound. We're going to talk about the special features, the packaging, the movie itself as well. But before we get into it, guys, I want to ask that if you are not yet a subscriber to the Mid-Level Media channel, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe button for more great content. We cover all things physical media here on this channel, 4Ks, Blu-rays, owning the movies that you love, all that stuff there behind me. So if you like that kind of thing, definitely consider hitting the subscribe button. Also, be sure to hit that like button and then comment down below, guys, what are your thoughts on Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead? Is this one of your favorite zombie movies? Are you going to purchase this 4K edition? I will be leaving a link down below for purchase if you decide you want to get this based on my recommendation. So yeah, Dawn of the Dead, let's talk about it. Let's first get into the actual transfer and visual quality of this 4K release. So this is a new 4K master from the original camera negative with Dolby Vision and HDR10. And man, I gotta tell you guys, look, I gotta be honest here. This was a beautiful transfer. I was not expecting this movie to look as good as it did, but I have to say this is probably one of the best Scream Factory 4K releases that I have seen in quite some time. Like, Carrie was great for sure. Alligator was a great one last year also, but this is one of the best 4K releases that I have seen from Scream Factory, like, since they've started doing 4K. I thought that this looked incredible. The colors were so rich and vibrant. I don't know, just when this movie started, like, the opening scene is such a standout. Just anyway, like, it's a standout scene of the movie. But just the colors of like the neighborhood and the green grass and contrast of the zombies running around and the blood flying everywhere, explosions, so you have the orange from the fire, and just the girl that's wearing the white shirt with the blood all over it. It just looks so good with that HDR enhancement, and those colors just looked so rich and vibrant, and there's so much like blood and gore in this movie, and all that stuff just looked excellent. But the facial detail as well, like when they did some of those close-up shots, like the one that sticks out to me is when Ving Rhames first shows up and he gets the girl out of the car, and just the close-up shot on his face is so extremely detailed. Like, you can see his pores, and just every single detail of his face just really stands out. This also has a very nice, consistent grain structure. Just not a very heavy grain structure, but just a nice grain structure that reminds you. This movie was shot on 35 millimeter, just to remind you that you're watching an actual film, and it just really adds to the weight of the actual cinematography and filmmaking here, and I just love it. I love it when a movie has a good, I know some people are grain haters, they don't like the grain, they want it completely clean, but this has a solid grain structure. There was no like signs of like smoothing, digital smoothing or DNR or anything like that. Just looked very clean, but at the same time had a good grain to it as well. So I really appreciated that. And some of the wide shots, like there's so many like just like big like drawn out like up top wide shots in this movie that shows like the big like zombie crowd hordes. And all that stuff looked great, just so detailed. Like, you could just see all the individual zombies like moving around. It wasn't like this big horde mess. Like, you could see the crowd of zombies, but you could see them all like moving around. It just incredibly detailed, and it looked amazing. The black levels and the contrast were near perfection here. Like, Zack Snyder, when you're watching his movies, it looks like he's using like all different types of like filters. Like in the mall, things are very like green because of like the lighting and stuff in the mall, and then outside everything's like real bright and the sunlight's kind of shining on everybody, so that you have like various different types of like filters, but the contrast just really enhances all of those filters and just makes things really pop within this movie. So great transfer overall. And this is definitely, I have the Blu-ray. I don't have the Shout Factory Scream Factory Blu-ray that came out 2017. I had the original Blu-ray that came out back in like 2007, 2008. And I will say that this is a definite, I can't speak for the Scream Factory one. I would imagine it's also a step up from that, but this is definitely a step up from the Blu-ray by a mile. So if you were concerned about this being a subpar 4K remaster of Dawn of the Dead, you have no worries there. This transfer, I promise you, is one of the best that I've seen from Scream Factory for sure since they've started doing 4K. So great transfer here. Getting into the sound, this is a DTS HD 5.1 and a 2.0 as well. Both of those tracks are included. Great sound throughout. There's a lot of action in this film, a lot of explosions, like I said, a lot of like cars wrecking and stuff, especially in the beginning, the opening of this movie. Everything sounds great, all the gunshots, just all that stuff. Just a really good, solid sound structure that sounded great on my soundbar subwoofer setup. And jumping into the packaging right here, you have that nice original poster artwork for Dawn of the Dead from back in 2004, and I love that Scream Factory does this. This just looks so good with the orange and the yellow and all the zombies walking in front of the sun. Just looks fantastic. And then I'll show you the back right here. I'll kind of zoom in on it so you can see the synopsis and the specs and all that good stuff, the casting list down below. Now this is a 3-disc set. So you get 3 discs in this set, and I'll show you the inside. Now I will say, guys, this is an off-gassing alert here because there is a little bit of off-gassing. If you're not familiar with off-gassing, it's the little residue that you will find in some of your 4K cases that's caused from them, I guess, closing the 4K case too early before it has a chance to cool after they create it. And it creates this kind of off-gassing smudge inside. So a lot of people were complaining about this last year when the Child's Play 4Ks came out. And it looks like the off-gassing has returned. This is the return revenge of the off-gassing with Dawn of the Dead right here. But look, I'm not too concerned about that. I got a little bit of the smudge on my disc. I wiped it off, and I'll definitely be wiping off the inside right here. Should we have to deal with that? No. You do get the 4K of the unrated cut here, which we'll talk about here in a second because that sparked a little bit of controversy with this release. You also get the Blu-ray unrated cut that also has special features on it, and then you get the Blu-ray of the theatrical cut, which has additional special features on it as well. So getting into the controversy a little bit with this, some people are upset that they didn't get the theatrical cut of Dawn of the Dead in 4K. And to be completely honest with you, I don't really understand myself why you didn't get the theatrical cut on 4K, because you had the unrated cut on 4K, and that has all of the theatrical cut sequences. Like, I would understand if they did the theatrical cut in 4K, but not the unrated, because some of the footage that they put in was just from the 2K digital intermediate, and they upscaled that to 4K. That wasn't even a complete 4K restoration for those sequences that they put on the 4K disc. So they had the theatrical cut completely done in 4K, and they put that in the unrated cut, and then put the extended unrated cut scenes in it that weren't completely restored. Why didn't they just go ahead and do a 4K disc of the theatrical cut? It doesn't make much sense, and I completely understand if you're upset by that, because you want your options, right? Like, maybe you want to watch the theatrical cut in 4K and you don't want all the extra scenes and stuff, which I will say the unrated cut definitely adds a lot of extra gore and a lot of cool sequences to it. So I don't think that I would ever watch the theatrical cut going forward. Anyway, I'll probably just watch the unrated cut because I like the extra sequences that it does add. But you want your options, and it just doesn't make sense why they did not include the theatrical cut in 4K. It would have been so easy for them to do it. So I get that people are upset by that. I really do. But you do get the 1 4K disc, and you get the 2, Blu-ray disc with the unrated and the theatrical cut. So getting into the features here, so you have the 2 discs with the special features. Now you do get the audio commentary, and I think it's audio commentary with director ZACK SNYDER and producer Eric Newman, and that is on the 4K disc. And you also get that commentary, I believe, on the Blu-ray disc as well for the unrated cut. And in addition to that, on the Blu-ray disc of the unrated cut, you get all of the archival special features that they made back, I'm guessing in the DVD days, maybe the Blu-ray days. I'm pretty sure they were also present on the Blu-ray disc. There's some cool special features in there, though. They do like a full 20-minute, like in-world, like in the Dawn of the Dead world, like news broadcast where they like take you through the progression of the actual like virus. There's also a mockumentary where they have like the cast and crew like talking about the zombies like they were real on set, which is kind of funny as well. But that's all archival stuff that was present on previous Blu-ray and DVD releases from back in the day when this was first released. Like, it has I know it's from a long time ago because it has ZACK SNYDER in them. and he looks super young in all of the interviews and stuff. So I know it had to be like back when the Blu-ray or the DVD came out. Getting into disc 3, so this is where you have all of the, on the Blu-ray theatrical cut, this is where you have all of the interviews that they recently did back in 2017 for the Dawn of the Dead Blu-ray release from Scream Factory. And these are all really good interviews. You get 4 new interviews, one of which is with James Gunn himself. And that was kind of surprising to me because this was back in 2017. He was getting ready to do Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So he had already kind of blown up as a filmmaker. He was doing Marvel movies, and they got him to come back and talk about Dawn of the Dead, which James Gunn's huge now. Like, he's leading DC and everything else. And I did not know, or at least I didn't remember, that James Gunn wrote Dawn of the Dead, the remake. So that was pretty cool, fun fact. And that was a really great interview with him, just talking about how he had to convince the studio heads to write the movie, write the actual screenplay before he pitched them his idea, because that's the way his creative mind worked, which was kind of interesting, just kind of going through, because you know he's got to pitch stuff now with the old DC thing and the Marvel stuff. Like, they're not going to let him just write a script out of nowhere. So it kind of shows he kind of talks about the contrast between his personality then and his personality now from a creative standpoint. So it's a really great interview with him. So some good interviews on here, but I have to complain a little bit because there's no new special features. And every time that Scream Factory or Criterion or Arrow Video, you know, they do a new 4K release or whatever, and they don't add any new special features, I think it's worth bringing up because you should add something new. I get you have all these great special features from the past. I get that, but you need to add something new in there. You just need some new interviews, maybe a new audio commentary, just something to sweeten the pot, sweeten the deal for getting this release, especially for people that already purchased that 2017 Blu-ray. They need some extra additional reasons to upgrade and get this release, because I mean, this is $29.99, and that's pretty expensive for a lot of people to you know, want to shell out that extra money. Does it look great on 4K? It absolutely does, but that can't be the only selling point here. You need some extra features. You need some extra supplemental material here, I think. So definitely every time they don't include this, and Scream Factory is not the only one. Arrow Video does it. Criterion does it. They don't include anything new in their upgrades, and they definitely should. So I got to knock it down a little bit for that. So getting into the movie a little bit briefly, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the actual film itself. I've always been a big fan of this movie. I remember when it came out in the theaters, and this was before I even knew like who Zack Snyder was, a filmmaker. I think this is one of his first films, if not his first major film, was Dawn of the Dead. But I remember seeing the preview for this in another movie I was watching in the theater, and the preview blew my mind. It scared the shit out of me. I was like, oh my God, this looks scary as hell. This looks awesome. And I had never been a huge fan of like zombie movies. I just never found them scary. Just the slow moving zombies moving around. I just never found that scary. This was the first zombie movie that actually scared me. So I got to give it credit for that. And the opening of this film is like next level to me. Like, it still hits hard. Like, I love the opening of this film, just how they wake up and the little girls in the hallway. All that stuff is like super creepy, super effective. And just the whole like sequence where she's running in the neighborhood and everything's like all hell's breaking loose and people are crashing. The guy gets hit by the van. It's explosions and stuff as she's driving. Like, just the way Zack Snyder shoots that too is just so freaking awesome. Just, I love the style and the pace of this movie. In particular, those first 10 minutes are just astounding. So I've always been a big fan. For a long time, I called this my favorite zombie movie because it was just, I love the fast moving zombies. I think that they bring an extra element of terror to the genre. Also got to bring up the ending credits. I love the way that this ends and the way that they do the ending credits, just kind of showing it like found footage style as they go back and forth between the credits. That's super awesome. And I feel like at the time, like super groundbreaking. Not a lot of people were doing like end credit stuff back then. This was before like Marvel started doing it in every movie, and it kind of became an expectation for all films. So I thought that that was pretty cool, just the way that Zack Snyder like cut back and forth between the actual credits and the actual like found footage stuff. And then they get on the island and there's zombies there. That I always remember that being a super cool and effective ending. Great gore and action throughout this movie. Like, there's some fantastic gore effects in this film. Great action, like in particular, like the last 30 minutes when they're trying to get out of the mall, just a bunch of like shootouts and stuff, all hell breaking loose, and it's just fantastic. It gets a little, if I have to knock it down some, it gets a little slow in the middle portion of this movie, and it decides to focus a lot on the characters, which James Gunn actually talks about, you know, in the special features, how he wanted to focus more on the characters with this one. And I think that that kind of works against the film a little bit, because I don't believe that the characters are all that interesting, to be honest. Like, I like the lead girl in this enough, and interestingly enough, I was looking her up, so I was like, she looks familiar. Was she in anything else like around this time? Her name's Sarah Pauly, and she actually directed the movie Women Talking, which is being nominated for screenplay right now in the Oscars. So that's kind of cool. She wrote and directed the movie Women Talking. So she's being nominated for an Oscar right now, and she was in this movie. So that's cool that she kind of transitioned her career. Ving Rhames, to me, is probably the standout of his film. He just has such a cool factor to him. It's hard not to love Ving Rhames, going all the way back to Pulp Fiction. He's just a complete badass. So he's great in the movie. I did forget, and it makes sense now knowing that James Gunn wrote this movie. I did forget about the comedy, and there's definitely a lot of satirical aspects of this film. There's one point in the movie which I thought was seriously weird, where they're showing like a montage of everybody, and Ving Rhames is on the roof, like, and he's communicating with that guy across the way, and they're playing like this weird, almost like classical Frank Sinatra type version of Down with the Sickness by Disturbed, and I did not remember that, so I thought that that was kind of strange and didn't entirely fit with the film. And then they try to insert like some moments of comedy throughout this film that I don't think work, and I don't think it was necessary for this type of movie. I think they should have made it a little bit more serious throughout, and I think it would have been a lot more effective as a scary zombie film. So overall, guys, that is my thoughts on the Dawn of the Dead 4K Scream Factor release. I would recommend picking this one up. It's $29.99, which is a little bit of a steep price point, but this transfer is out of this world great. I think it looks fantastic. I wish they would have done the theatrical cut in 4K. I wish they would have added in some new special features, so that's definitely disappointing, but everything else about this release is fantastic, so I would definitely recommend that you pick this up. I have this link down below if you want to purchase it based on my recommendation. So thank you so much for watching my review of Dawn of the Dead on 4K. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment down below your thoughts on this release and this movie. Also, turn on those bell notifications for all future videos, and follow me on all my social media accounts down below. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Letterboxd. Follow all those accounts down below, and we'll see you next time.